Hello brothers, and welcome to Sigma Old Man Channel. When people can't figure you out, they don't get curious, they get hostile. You see, the world isn't built to understand the Sigma male, it's built to monitor, measure, and manage people. And when someone walks in without asking for instructions or applause, alarms go off. Here's a wild fact. According to recent psychological studies, people are more likely to distrust someone quiet than someone openly rude. Why? Because silence makes them do something they hate, think. And the Sigma male? He's the human embodiment of cognitive dissonance. He doesn't speak much, doesn't conform, doesn't explain himself, and doesn't care to make you comfortable. And that's where things get messy. The normal crowd can't file him under weird or cool, so they default to projection. He's arrogant. He's broken. He's dangerous. It's less about who he is and more about what he unmasks in others. They don't perceive him accurately. They perceive what their ego fears when it looks at him. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into 12 brutally honest and uncensored ways the world interprets Sigma males. Some will make you laugh, some will make you uncomfortable, but all of them will make you think. Let's get into it. Number one, he's too deep, it's exhausting. He doesn't do surface level at all. When most people are tossing around half-baked opinions and recycled thoughts, he's dissecting patterns, motives, and the deeper layers of what's really going on. That kind of depth unsettles people. Not because he's wrong, but because it forces them to confront how shallow most of their own thinking is. A casual conversation with a Sigma male doesn't stay casual for long. What starts as small talk can spiral into you questioning your values, your beliefs, your childhood, things you weren't remotely ready to unpack while sipping coffee or scrolling your phone. People say he's too intense, but what they really mean is, he makes me feel seen in a way I didn't ask for. Most people are used to fake listening, smiling on autopilot and giving responses that sound socially acceptable, not honest. But the Sigma male has no patience for that game. He cuts through the script and goes straight for the raw part of you. And that kind of interaction, while powerful, can feel invasive to someone who's spent their whole life hiding behind a carefully constructed persona. It's not that he's trying to expose anyone, he just doesn't know how to dilute himself. He exists in full concentration, no emotional preservatives, no intellectual fluff. And because of that, people either feel magnetized by him or emotionally exhausted around him. There's rarely an in-between. Some folks even avoid him entirely, not because he's unfriendly, but because his presence forces them to feel too much. Most people want validation, not self-reflection. They want a mirror that flatters, not one that tells the truth. But the Sigma male doesn't adjust his frequency to make others comfortable. And that's why people often label him as too deep, when really it's just that they're not used to depth at all. In a society that rewards performance over presence, being genuine is unsettling. And the Sigma male doesn't perform, he reveals. And what he reveals without even trying is just how superficial the world has become. Number two, he doesn't need us, and that makes us hate him. He doesn't orbit anyone, he doesn't chase validation, doesn't beg to be included, and never performs weakness just to feel accepted. That kind of independence isn't just rare, it's threatening. Most people don't realize how much of their identity is built around being needed or needing others. They cling to friendships, relationships, even shallow connections, not out of genuine love, but out of fear. Fear of being irrelevant, fear of being alone, fear of not mattering. But the Sigma male doesn't operate on that frequency. He's not trying to be saved, and he's not trying to save anyone either. He's whole on his own. And that kind of self-sufficiency can feel like a slap to the face for people who define their worth by how essential they are to others. When he doesn't depend on them, it exposes how dependent they really are, and rather than admit that, they turn it into resentment. He's distant. He's selfish. He thinks he's too good for us. None of that's true. He simply isn't addicted to emotional cosigns. His peace doesn't need external signatures. He can spend days in his own head, build in silence, move in solitude, and be perfectly fine. But when someone doesn't need you, it messes with your ego. Especially in a world where being needed makes people feel valuable. That's why people secretly or even openly start to dislike him. It's not because he's rude, it's not because he hurt them. It's because his existence proves that emotional independence is possible and that challenges everything they've been taught about connection. They're not equipped to relate without emotional dependence. So instead of rising to meet him on that level, they label him cold. What they call arrogance is actually self-containment. What they interpret as rejection is just detachment from their chaos. And what they hate is the freedom they don't have. Number 3, he's not trying to be liked, so he must be unlikable. He's not playing the social games everyone else is stuck in. He's not trying to charm anyone, win points, or fake interest just to stay likable. The Sigma male doesn't shrink himself to be digestible, and that throws people off. Because most folks are constantly editing themselves, softening their tone, dressing their truths in sugar, calculating every move for applause. When someone shows up who doesn't do any of that, they don't know how to process it. People confuse his honesty with hostility. If he doesn't laugh at the joke, he's cold. If he doesn't fake a smile, he's arrogant. If he walks away instead of pretending to care, he's rude. The truth? He's just uninterested in building fake bridges to nowhere. His silence isn't rejection. His bluntness isn't aggression. It's just clarity without a costume. We live in a culture where likability is currency. People sell pieces of their truth to stay in good graces. But the Sigma male doesn't care to be liked because he values respect over approval. And that makes people deeply uncomfortable, because if you're not trying to impress them, how are they supposed to feel important? The harsh reality is people think likability equals goodness. So when someone doesn't chase approval, they assume something's off. But Sigma males aren't antisocial. They're just allergic to pretense. They won't say what you want to hear. They won't nod to nonsense. And they won't decorate the truth with empty politeness. This doesn't make them unlikable. It makes them unbothered by the idea of being liked. Big difference. And that difference, ironically, is why people often remember them more than the social butterflies flapping around the room. He's not filtering to blend in. He's not decorating himself for your comfort. He's just being raw, unpolished, and real. And to those addicted to performance, that's not likable. That's threatening. Number 4, he's too calm. That's not normal. In a room full of people spiraling, the Sigma male is the one person who doesn't lose himself. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't throw blame, doesn't fidget, rant, or start pacing like his shoes are on fire. He just stays still. And that stillness isn't silence, it's strategy. It's not that he doesn't feel the chaos. It's that he refuses to let it own him, and that unshakable calm, it messes with people more than any outburst ever could. Most people are used to emotional echo chambers. If one person panics, everyone joins in so they don't feel alone. Drama becomes bonding. Chaos becomes culture, but the Sigma male doesn't play along. His mind is trained for internal triage. He processes first, reacts later, if at all. That level of self-command doesn't register as strength to the average person. It registers as suspicious. Why isn't he freaking out like the rest of us? Doesn't he care? The answer is, he cares. Just not sloppily. This is where it gets twisted. People start thinking, if he's not afraid, then maybe he knows something we don't. That calm becomes eerie. They interpret it as coldness or emotional detachment, but it's neither. It's just that the Sigma male doesn't hand his power over to panic. He knows that flailing rarely fixes anything, and if the ship's going down, he'd rather be the one reading the map than the one screaming at the waves. And let's be honest, most people aren't threatened by rage or noise. They're threatened by control, because control means clarity, and clarity means someone's thinking further ahead than them. That's why they don't trust his composure. In their eyes, only 2 types of people stay that calm under pressure: those too dumb to get it, or those too dangerous to lose. And the Sigma male is neither dumb nor safe. He's just mastered the rarest weapon in emotional warfare: composure that doesn't perform for attention, it protects intention. Number 5. He's probably a control freak. He hates being told what to do. He doesn't stomp his feet, shout no, or make a scene when rules don't sit right with him. He simply doesn't comply. No drama, no debate, just a silent, immovable, not for me. And that's what confuses and threatens people, because most are used to 2 reactions: obedient submission or loud resistance. But the Sigma male is a 3rd type. He opts out quietly without seeking approval or permission. And when someone doesn't even ask to disobey, it unnerves people who rely on control to feel powerful. He's not out here trying to dominate others. He's not obsessed with being in charge of everything. What he is obsessed with is guarding his own autonomy like his life depends on it, because for him it does. He doesn't trust systems just because they exist. He doesn't follow rules just because someone said so. His default setting is, prove it's worthy of my obedience or I'm not in. And that mindset makes institutional thinkers uncomfortable. They call him a control freak. They say he's stubborn, difficult, antisocial. But what they're really saying is, why won't he let us manage him like everyone else does? Because he doesn't bend to hierarchy. He doesn't melt under pressure. And most importantly, he doesn't need their validation to trust his own judgment. The average person equates quiet compliance with humility. They think staying in line is a virtue. But the Sigma male doesn't play that psychological trick on himself. He knows when he's being manipulated under the guise of teamwork or respect. And he chooses freedom over fitting in every time. That's not narcissism, that's sovereignty. He's not trying to control you, he just refuses to let you control him. His will isn't for rent, his identity isn't a group project, and his soul isn't up for negotiation. People say he just hates being told what to do. No, he hates being told who to be, and that's a line he never lets anyone cross. Number 6, he must be arrogant. Why else is he so unavailable? To most people, attention is everything. If you show up, text back fast, laugh at the right jokes, and hang around long enough, you're seen as polite, humble, even likable. But the Sigma male doesn't play by those social rules. He doesn't orbit people. He doesn't show up just to be seen. He's not performing accessibility to keep others comfortable. He values his time, his energy, and his inner world far too much to waste them on shallow interaction. And that kind of detachment doesn't read as balanced to the average person. It reads as arrogance. The truth is, he's not trying to make a statement. He's just prioritizing peace over presence. But to people who tie their self-worth to how often others acknowledge them, his absence feels like rejection. They start inventing reasons to explain it. He thinks he's better than us. He's too cool to talk to anyone. No one stops to consider the most uncomfortable truth of all. Maybe he just doesn't need their validation to breathe. It's not that he thinks others are beneath him. It's that he doesn't think in those terms at all. He's not measuring people on a social scale. He's focused on what matters to him, and most of the time it's not being liked or noticed. And that burns the egos of people who can't stand being ignored, because to them, being unseen is being unimportant. But here's the kicker. The Sigma male's distance isn't an insult. It's a boundary. One most people aren't used to. He's not on call for emotional convenience. He doesn't drop everything for attention crumbs. He's available to a rare few, and even then, only when it aligns with his truth. That's not arrogance. That's standards. He doesn't make himself scarce to prove anything. He just doesn't believe he has to overextend himself to be valid. And for a world that equates constant presence with humility, his detachment feels like a threat. Not because he's above them, but because they fear what it says about them, if he truly doesn't need them at all. Number 7, he's probably hiding something. Nobody's that quiet without a reason. Silence makes most people uncomfortable, not because it's unnatural, but because it forces them to face things they usually drown out with noise. So when someone like the Sigma male walks into a room and doesn't fill it with chatter, over-explanations, or performative energy, people get suspicious. What's he hiding? Why won't he open up? In a world obsessed with transparency, constant updates, and emotional oversharing, quiet feels dangerous, because people don't know how to trust what they can't read out loud. But here's what they miss. The Sigma male isn't silent because he's sneaky. He's silent because he's sovereign. His thoughts aren't public property. His emotions aren't for show. And his truth doesn't need to be validated by anyone else's understanding. That kind of internal privacy is rare and misunderstood. So they assume the worst. They project their own fear of being found out onto him because they wear masks. They hide agendas behind charm. They speak to manipulate and reveal just enough to control perception. The Sigma male does none of that. His quiet is clean. He's not scheming behind closed doors. He's protecting what's sacred. His silence isn't a vault of secrets, it's a firewall. A way to keep the world from crowding his mental space, because when you speak too much, you give too much, and when you give too much, you lose your edge. People don't like that they can't decode him. They're used to scanning people's behavior like files. They think they're entitled to know what someone's feeling, thinking, planning. But the Sigma male doesn't subscribe to that kind of emotional exposure, not because he's antisocial, but because he's precise. If he speaks, it's intentional. If he's quiet, it's on purpose. So no, he's not hiding something, he's guarding something. And that's a concept most people have never practiced. Protecting your peace without apology, without explanation, and without feeling the need to make everyone else comfortable in the process. Number 8. He's cold, probably emotionally dead inside. People love emotional displays. They trust tears they can see, anger they can hear, and vulnerability that's conveniently timed for sympathy. So when the Sigma male shows none of that, no outbursts, no dramatic highs or lows, they assume something must be wrong. He's emotionally dead. He has no empathy. He feels nothing. But what they don't realize is that his silence isn't emptiness. It's density. The Sigma male doesn't process emotion the way others do. He doesn't explode when overwhelmed. He absorbs, reflects, dissects. Where others erupt like fireworks for attention, he burns inward like a slow, concentrated flame. There's no applause when he hurts, no Instagram post when he heals, no performance, no audience, just him, and the quiet work of staying grounded in a world that profits off chaos. This unnerves people because we're taught that loud emotion equals depth, that if you're not visibly struggling, you must be numb. But the Sigma male doesn't equate honesty with oversharing. His feelings are real, they're just not for show. He grieves in private, celebrates in silence, and thinks 10 times before he says one thing. That kind of emotional restraint gets mistaken for being unfeeling, when in truth, it's just uncommon discipline. And let's be brutally honest, some people aren't mad that he's cold. They're mad that they can't provoke a reaction from him. They push, they test, they bait, and he doesn't give them what they want. Not because he doesn't feel, but because he refuses to hand over his emotional power. That's not dysfunction. That's strength most people don't recognize because they've never seen it done quietly. He's not a robot. He's not detached from humanity. He just doesn't externalize every inner storm. That doesn't make him dead inside. It makes him alive in a way that doesn't ask for permission or pity. People only call him cold because they expect warmth to be loud. But the Sigma male is a locked furnace, not a spotlight. And just because you can't see the fire doesn't mean it's not burning. Number 9, he's hard to read, so he must be manipulative. He doesn't give off obvious signals. He doesn't overshare, overreact, or over-explain. And in a world addicted to instant readability, that unsettles people. They can't tell if he's bored, amused, judging them, or planning to disappear. So instead of sitting with that uncertainty, they slap a label on him. Manipulative. It's easier to accuse someone of having a hidden agenda than to admit you're just not able to read the room when it isn't shouting back. The Sigma male doesn't manipulate. He monitors. He listens more than he speaks, watches more than he responds, and thinks long before he acts. That kind of mental patience is so rare that people confuse it with premeditated control. They think his silence is strategy. But he's not trying to outmaneuver anyone. He's trying to understand what's real before he gives anything of himself away. People who thrive on emotional cues and social performances get unnerved in his presence because he's not handing them a script to follow. He's not playing the game of predictable reactions. And when you can't read someone, you're forced to look at yourself, which most people would rather avoid at all costs. What they mistake for manipulation is actually emotional economy. He doesn't waste words. He doesn't inflate his personality for effect. He's not trying to steer people. He's trying not to be pulled. That refusal to be easily influenced makes him look like he's the one doing the influencing, but in truth, he's just holding his line while everyone else scrambles for social footing. It's not that he's playing 4D chess with people's emotions. It's that he doesn't broadcast his thoughts the way most do. And in a society where transparency is demanded, but rarely sincere, true privacy looks dangerous. People want labels. They want to feel like they've figured someone out. But the Sigma male can't be decoded with surface tools. So when they fail to box him, they brand him as manipulative, when really he's just mastered the power of saying nothing until there's something worth saying. Number 10, he's not impressing anyone, so he must be failing. Success today has become a performance. If you're not flaunting it, filming it, or faking it, people assume you're falling behind. That's why the Sigma male confuses so many, because he doesn't announce his progress. He builds in silence, sharpens behind closed doors, and moves without a spotlight. While everyone else is busy selling the illusion of progress, he's actually doing the work. But since he doesn't document the grind or post every minor win, people assume he's stuck. He's not showing off, so he must have nothing to show. What they don't understand is that his silence isn't a void, it's focus. He doesn't need witnesses to stay committed. He doesn't need applause to believe in what he's doing, and because his ambition isn't tied to public perception, he can go unnoticed for long stretches and not care one bit. But this invisibility makes others nervous. People equate visibility with value. So when someone doesn't care to be seen, they assume it's because he's ashamed or unsuccessful. The truth is, he doesn't share because he doesn't need the feedback loop. He's not addicted to validation, he's addicted to results. And results don't need to be loud to be real. Then, just when they've written him off, he drops something. A project, a brand, an achievement, a move so clean and precise it looks like it came out of nowhere. That's the Sigma move. Strike once, strike silently, and leave an impact that echoes louder than all the noise they made while watching. And by then, it's too late for them to catch up, because while they were perfecting their highlight reels, he was perfecting himself. What looked like failure was just stealth. What seemed like nothing was the quiet before a calculated storm. He's not failing, he's just not performing for you. And in a world obsessed with image, that kind of invisible progress is the most misunderstood power of all. Number 11. He thinks he's better than us. He won't even join in. He doesn't jump into every conversation. He doesn't laugh just to fit in. He doesn't force small talk, fake enthusiasm, or join the herd when it starts barking in unison. And because of that, people assume he's looking down on them. Who does he think he is? Too good to hang out with the rest of us? But that's not it at all. The Sigma male simply sees through the facade, the performative closeness, the shallow bonding over shared complaints, the rituals people use to feel important in groups. And he wants no part of it. To him, connection without truth is noise, and most group dynamics are built on exactly that, noise. Chatter to avoid silence, agreement to avoid conflict, smiles to avoid being questioned. He can't fake it, he won't pretend. And when someone refuses to play the social game, people don't know whether to feel offended or exposed. So they settle for the easiest narrative. He must think he's better than us. But the truth is, he's just not seduced by the illusion of belonging. He knows that fitting in often requires you to shave off pieces of yourself until you're just a reflection of the crowd. That's a price he refuses to pay. Not because he thinks he's superior, but because he values authenticity more than acceptance. And most people confuse authenticity with arrogance when it refuses to mimic their behavior. He doesn't talk just to be heard, he doesn't agree just to be liked, and he won't lower his frequency just to make people feel comfortable. That restraint, that refusal to participate in emotional theatrics, makes others feel invisible. But that's not his problem. He's not rejecting them. He's rejecting the performance they've wrapped themselves in. They say, he won't even join in. No, he won't join what's fake. He won't play roles that drain his energy or echo chambers that reward compliance over clarity. He'd rather stand alone than blend in and betray himself. It's not elitism, it's alignment. And to those who can't face their own masks, that feels like an insult. Number 12, he's not flirting back must be asexual or awkward. When someone flirts, they expect a reaction, a smile, a compliment, maybe a little ego boost in return. But with the Sigma male, there's often nothing, no sparkle in the eye, no flirtatious grin, no eager lean in, just calm presence, maybe a nod, and then back to whatever was on his mind. That kind of response, or lack of it, throws people off, especially those used to being instantly adored just for showing up. So they start reaching for labels. He must be shy. Maybe he's asexual. Probably socially awkward. In reality, none of that is true. He's just not buying what's being sold. It's not that he doesn't notice attractiveness. He sees it clearly. He just doesn't reward it without substance. The Sigma male is built with a kind of sexual discipline that makes people uncomfortable. He's not led by impulse or impressed by well-packaged emptiness. So when someone flirts just to test their power and it bounces off him like static, they take it personally, not realizing he's not disinterested. He's discerning. He's not emotionally numb. He's immune to performance. He can tell when someone's flirting out of boredom, insecurity, or a need for validation, and that doesn't interest him at all. He's not here to boost anyone's self-esteem on demand. He's scanning for depth, not desperate energy. And the truth is, most people never make it past his mental filter, not because he's hard to please, but because he refuses to pretend that chemistry exists when it doesn't. The Sigma male doesn't flirt back just to be polite or make someone feel good. That kind of emotional dishonesty goes against everything he stands for. If he gives you his attention, it's intentional. If he opens the door, it means you've earned it. But most people don't want to earn it. They want instant gratification. And when they don't get it from him, they label him broken. But he's not broken, he's self-controlled. And in a culture where attention is thrown around like confetti, his refusal to hand it out cheaply makes him look cold when really he's just the only one not faking it. They call him arrogant, cold, manipulative, or even broken. But the truth is, the Sigma male is simply uncompromisingly real in a world built on masks, noise, and emotional theatrics. He doesn't seek applause, doesn't explain his silence, and never bends his identity to earn social credit. And that makes people uncomfortable because what they don't understand, they label. What they can't predict, they fear. And what they can't control, they try to discredit. The Sigma male's presence isn't a performance, it's a disruption, a quiet rebellion against superficial norms. He doesn't flirt with empty attention, he doesn't follow rules just to belong, and he doesn't speak just to be heard. Every move is intentional, every silence is earned. Every refusal to join in is a declaration that he will never trade his truth for acceptance. In the end, people don't really hate Sigma males. They hate what he reveals about themselves. He's the reminder that not everyone is hungry for approval, that not everyone is willing to fake it to be liked, that power, peace, and purpose can exist without an audience. So the next time someone calls him difficult, weird, or too much, understand this. It's not a flaw, it's a reflection. And some mirrors aren't meant to flatter, they're meant to expose. If this resonated with you on a deeper level, you're not alone, and you're definitely not average. Subscribe to the channel for more brutally honest, no-fluff content that speaks your language. Like the video if you value truth over trends. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever been misjudged just for being real? Share this with someone who doesn't fit the mold and never wanted to. This channel isn't for the masses. It's for the few who see through the noise and walk through the fire anyway. Welcome to your tribe.